that you need to do to communicate with the user group and with ODOT administration and with us, if necessary, prints that communicate that information that can be marked up, and then plan approval and permits. And for you that are not familiar with OFCC bidding, there are no printed bid documents. They are all available to be downloaded from the online bidding system we use called Bid Express. Reprographers and contractors can go to Bid Express if they have a license. There's several different ones. It's not expensive. They can download that stuff and either print it themselves or have a reprographer print it for them. So we do not do any of that, and there's no reference to any reprographers that are to be used in the bid documents. And just so you know, here's the link to all of those exhibits and contracts. You go to that link and it will get you to the agreements and standard requirements, and look for multiple prime and general contracting both. Like I said, we are planning on doing multiple prime for most of these, but some of them we may do as general contracting. So as you're moving into this, familiarize yourself with both of those. Any questions on that brief overview of how the contract is going to be structured? I'll move on to what our delivery expectations are. We expect you to provide services consistent with the level of professional care and due diligence as would be expected of all Ohio firms in similar circumstances. So that is going to be our level of care and expectation from you. We would expect in the average of what your errors and omissions would be a certain percentage of what we're seeing across the board, and we are going to expect you to be liable for anything that grossly exceeds that. We expect an orderly progress of the work in an effective and efficient manner. Time is critical on this project. We have to deliver these projects and have the money expended in 2019, so that we are through the bond money and we've expended that $100 million plus. Delivery of the project is to substantial completion is what is main date we've got, because that is where most of the funds are expended to. And closeout is essential to the users of the facility and their obligations to the taxpayers to maintain the state highways across the state. It is essential to project administration staff at the Department of Transportation and our facility staff also that we maintain these dates. Our commitment and effort to each and every project is tied to the project delivery schedule, and our commitment to the success of this round of projects is tied timely response to your deliverables on the project. We're going to have a schedule for you. All of the schedules are going to be offset. We have limited capacity in both our houses, ODOT and OFCC, to do our due diligence on meeting with you, our due diligence on reviewing your documents, etc. If you're late, you're going to mess up our ability to man the projects. So it's really important that we keep the schedules going so we can maintain our workforce on your projects as we're moving them through. You delay, we are then delayed, and we are getting backed up because of that. And vice versa, we need to be timely and get reviews done also. Each project will have contractual milestones to be met. For the design professional, we'll be providing the deliverables for each of the basic services, and that goes back to what the deliverables listed are in Exhibit C. This is essential to keep the projects moving ahead to the initiation of construction on April 1st, which is tied to the substantial completion date later in the next year. Any delay in the design to bid documents will cause a compression of the construction duration and the potential for increased construction costs. All 12 of these projects are going to start construction April 1st, 2018. No matter when you start on design, no matter when we bid them, they're all 12 going to start on that date, because we have to expend the gross amount of money through April 1st to that date in 2019. For contractors, it will be the dry-in date, substantial completion, and closeout. There may be other milestones for specific projects at specific sites warranted by the needs of ODOT. Projects on existing sites maintain a requirement for salt storage, which we've talked about, to be usable and accessible during the winter months on sites that construction are going on. A milestone for early completion of this is to be expected. Dry-in affects how each of the multi-prime contractors will bid with respect to temporary utilities they are providing, and the use of permanent HVAC systems at dry-in for construction provided by the mechanical contractor and energized at the cost of the lead contractor. So each one of those contracts in multi-prime will bid to what they are responsible for temporary heating and other temporary utilities until dry-in, and then those responsibilities shift. So if our contractors don't make dry-in, other contractors will be assigned the responsibility of picking up those costs until they make those deadlines. That's what the milestone dates are for. Substantial completion and closeout are self-explanatory, and liquidated damages will be applied as appropriate to our contractors. So the question is, why multi-prime and general contractor delivery? We had this question that's come up, and I'm going to kind of give you an explanation. Our project experience in the first round is leading us to believe that multi-prime and/or general contracting may be a better method for delivery on our round 2 projects. We have not been happy with how the projects have turned out in round 1. Some of them are delayed, grossly delayed, and we have a problem with that. There's better management of the schedule and thereby the project's resources under these 2 methods. This requires working knowledge of construction scheduling, which we're going to expect you guys to be providing part of that, and management thereof by the state staff and our AEs. This is even more transparent under multi-prime with an independent scheduling consultant responsible to the project and not any of the contractors. Success with either of these methods requires assertive project management, which we expect from you guys, by both the professional service provider, you, and by the state itself. Any questions on how this is going to flush out? Nothing? All right.
Real quick.
Yeah.
You will have an independent scheduling consultant?
Under multi-prime, we always do.
Okay. So
It is assigned to the lead contractors as an allowance, but they are independent and responsible to the project and not to the lead contractor. And as we say in multi-prime, all the float belongs to the project and not to any one contractor.
Okay.
So we want to get that back in place. We're going to try to do better with that also as we're moving ahead with general contracting and the other ones. But right now, we're moving ahead with this $100 million. We got to hit it and get it right this time. That's all there's to it. We got to.
How was the round 1 projects? How were they delivered?
Round 1, we had design build first, which was one reason we did that was we had $50 million we had to chew up by the end of 2014. And we had issues with that. ODOT projects, I think our experience has learned that with a criteria architect, it is such a complex, these may look like simple things, there's a lot going on in there. ODOT has major expectations of what they need, and they know that. And we wrote criteria around that, and it was very hard for us to make sure we got all of that criteria met. CM at risk has been our issue with that is getting the architects and our CM at risk entities to agree on what the cost was and negotiating that through to the point where I think, and I'll be honest, we've terminated several of our CM at risk contracts and gone to general contracting. We were losing time and it's just costing us too much money. We bid them out and they came in below what the estimates were. So there's when the history has been round one. So we're just cutting the you know what and going right into general contracting and multi-prime for this round. We hope it is more successful. We're trying it on a couple of them, but that's going to be our game bet and our risk that we're going to take as we move ahead. Any other questions? So let's talk about the schedule. I think this is, yeah, so we're going to be out here a little early. For all you guys that are going to submit in the statement of qualifications, the 330s are to be submitted in PDF format to OFCC by 2 p.m. on December 15th, 2016. We will then score them. We will then rank them. And the shortlisted firms will be notified the week of January 16th through January 27th. You will be at that time informed when your interview will be. The shortlisted firms will be interviewed January 30th through February 3rd. Right now we're looking at probably Wednesday and Thursday and Friday of that week. And we're going to be running them back to back. They will be 30 minutes of presentation time on your part to convince us that you are qualified to do this job and the best choice for it, and then 15 minutes of questions for us to clarify anything we don't understand. Let's see, make sure I got, let me. Okay, so offerings will be sent out on February 7th. That will have the project location of what we're offering. It will have the project type, whether it's an outpost or a full-service maintenance facility, and a schedule for delivery. Response from the firm is expected within 24 hours, or we will, with pending circumstances, consider you are declining. so that we can move on immediately to offer it to the next firm. So we assume that if you're coming back, you will be interested in picking that project up. Otherwise, we need to move on because these are tight schedules. Execution of the contracts will be coordinated with the launching of the projects. The projects are launching and design in different staggerings, whatever. Construction will start for all of them on April 1st of 2018. And so you know we've done modeling on the projects over the last 2 years based on what the information we could pull out of OCI. The design duration has roughly been around 8 months, so that is what we're building into the schedule for all of these projects. Although we know the outposts are a little shorter, they were actually 7 months to design an outpost. Construction duration is, we're saying it's 11 plus 2 months. That is because under perfect conditions or good conditions, these projects, full service maintenance facilities, should take 11 months to build from start to finish. But we keep running into issues on site, et cetera, and we are building in for ourselves 2 months in case we have to extend the contract due to change orders for site conditions. So that still gets us the money expended out at the end of the 13-month duration. But again, the construction contracts will be written for 11 months from start to finish. I'm buying us 2 months float in case something goes wrong, which it typically does. So we've got a plan for it. You guys, the critical thing is we got to expend this $100 million by that date. That's the bottom line. We're doing everything we can to make sure that that happens. The time between opening of the bids and the notice to proceed for construction varies per project. Some of these projects are going to get started early in design. They're going to bid early. We're going to stick with what the law says about bidding and notice to proceed, but we're going to vary those back and forth so that we have time to chew on all this. Our staff cannot handle all 12 of these being bid on the same date and getting them all out on construction on April 1st. April 1st is it. We need to stagger these so our staff can work it through. There's a lot of people in both houses that have to do things, process things, move things forward, and it takes some time. We're building that into the schedule. So that's, any questions about how the schedule is going to go and why? Yeah.
When we would do the interview, do we know which project we'd be interviewing for, or is it still all the projects?
Okay, yeah, and I should explain that. You're going to be ranked, there's going to be 16 at least on the short list, if not more. That is not going to rank you. You're coming back in with a neutral ranking. Your ranking will get you to 16 or more from the 330s. When you go in for the shortlist interview, you are ground zero with all the other ones. We're going to interview you. You're going to sell us on how good you guys are, how good you can do this for us, et cetera. And then we're going to score your interviews, and that will give you the ranking of between the 16. One of you is going to be at top of the 16. Some of you are going to be down at the bottom. We're going to start with number 1. We're going to look at where you are geographically in the state. We're going to say, okay, you're in the northeast corner of the state. We're going to give you the Medina project. It's a full-service project. Here's the budget, and here's the schedule for it. Are you interested in a contract? Okay? We will then go to number 2. We will look at where they are in the state and do the same thing all the way down until we've got all 12 assigned. They will all come out on a certain date, and I can't remember what it was. We will make all those offers on a certain date, and we expect an answer back from you guys. Go or not go. Then the schedule will also dictate when you're going to be seeing the contract information coming from us, and we're going to move ahead.
Now, just to make sure I heard this correctly, and I'm sure I did. The notifications will come out for the awards for the AE firm, the design, but you're saying that at that point, the projects are not all going to be the same.
They're not, and the contracts will not be.
Staggered over
Yeah.
project.
Yeah, we have to stagger them because of our workload at OFCC and ODOT. Yeah, so the offers will all come out on that date. We expect an answer back from you guys. We'll confirm it, and then we'll give you the schedule when all that stuff's going to happen. When you can expect the contract to be executed, funding in place, first kickoff meeting, and you're off and running. Okay, we are still working at putting our schedule together for all these. We've got an overall idea of what it is. We've got they're staggered, I think, in 3 groups right now, but we need to stagger even more for there's actually a 2-week offset that we have to do between all the projects for our manpower. We've got 2 weeks where we're going to be reviewing your documents for SD, 2 weeks where we're going to be reviewing your documents for DD, to make sure they're in compliance. To do that, we have to offset all the projects in a district against each other. So it's offset in districts, really is what the key piece is. Does that answer your question? Okay, good. Any other ones? Any other questions about how this is going to go? It's a lot for all of us. We have not done this like this before, but we're tackling it with our arms around it, with the staff to do it. We think we're going to be able to manage it. The bottom line is we've got to spend $100 million by a certain date. If there are any other questions, yeah.
How many projects were in round one?
14. Yeah, and we group those.
Was your construction schedule same 11 plus 2, or?
No, it was not that organized, and to be honest with you, the, I want to say the bond issue, payout, whatever, loading, was based on multiple prime, and the delivery of design build and CM at risk is different. Multi-prime starts spending the money faster, which is why we're going, another reason we're going to multi-prime. CM at risk, if there's so much time up front that by the time we get to construction where the money really starts to flow out, was much later. And we had a hard time then recovering, because it was later, we had a hard time recovering that expenditure to get to where we needed to be at the end of round one. So we're doing everything we can to make this in our favor, with you guys on board, in your favor, to get this done. We're trying everything from our lessons from the first one. And they were not pretty. So, okay, so any more questions about how we're going to fall out with it? So, saying we've got 12 projects now, and this is to give you guys a heads up in case you're not interested in any of these. Going to be coming up in the next follow-up, and this is separate funding from the 100 million. Is that true, Carrie, at the districts too? Okay, separate funding than the 100 million. So these projects are going to be coming in someplace hereafter. There are 6 districts that need their headquarters renovated or replaced. We are in the process of doing an assessment for ODOT to figure out what qualifies for replacement, what qualifies for renovation. Then we have a bunch of rest area projects coming up across the state. Right now we are doing a prototype for those rest areas that is under contract, and kickoff is actually this afternoon for that. That prototype is going to drive the Preble County, which we have AE services for. But we're going to be looking for an architect to take that prototype and add it to the Warren County sites, which are just below 71 on the Big Span Bridge, which I think is Butler or Hamilton County. I think it's Butler. And then we've got others to follow. We have a list of other projects that are funded separately for rest areas that are going to follow through thereafter. So we've got more work coming besides just this $100 million. So I just want to give you guys a heads up on that. So any questions? And that is the end of what we have to present to you guys to give you an idea of what this whole $100 million project is about. Yeah. There probably will be, and that'll be separate from the AE contractor contracts. Okay.
Could you repeat that question?
I'm sorry. The question was, is there a need for commissioning services?
Mr. Follow-up to that, will that be MEP and envelope, or is that known?
The question is, will that be commissioning for MEP or envelope? I think the answer will be to be determined. Questions about 330s, procurement, projects, how they're going to roll out? Everyone, I thank you very, very much for coming here and spending a couple hours with us and listening to our spiel. We hope that all of you are interested in submitting 330s to us. Our scorers are hoping that you don't, because they're going to have to chew through them. But bottom line is, we hope to see all of you involved, if not on these projects that we've got coming down the road. Thank you very much.
Hey, Dan, before everybody dozes off, I'm Rick Kruboff from ODOT again. For those of you that have not worked with ODOT before, we just want to let you know that we hire engineering firms for small projects, maintenance, repairs, and various things. Terry was not able to come up and talk about the EDGE and DBE and outreach that we're doing. We're very supportive of minority contractors and consultants. You hire a lot of engineering consultants, so if anybody has interest in working on ODOT projects that are not administered by OFCC, please come and see me. Be happy to help you work with our consultant services department to get you qualified and on our list of potential people as well.
Thanks, Rick. Again, thank you all.